Uh, so people might be wondering, some of the subscribers, if they've been following the Deteriornation series. Obviously the upload frequency has declined some weeks. So episode 20 was deleted, and I was cautioned for pushing the barriers on suitable content. So I'm going to look back into, I'm not sure what part of the episode has been referred to, but I'll look back at it and I'll rework it, and it's okay, because I wanted this series to be like a documentative Canberran journalistic jigsaw, non-linear. What I've experienced and then learnt. What was the movie? Like Run Lola Run. I think it's anti-chronological. It's sort of what I'm doing. So in short, I wouldn't go to that much trouble if there wasn't what I would consider to be serious subject matter to think about. But I gotta do it in a way, evidently, that doesn't keep getting screwed and censored. I was outraged by this initiative to represent me as profilable, as someone made psychotic from video. The results of video. I have fairly minimal philosophy. It is incorporated from a lot of... today I spoke to two people who had both done philosophy at universities, and we talked about my view that the dichotomy of schooling, where people are going, send them to a private Christian school or send them into a secular school, and I think it's unreasonable that those are the two options. I think a third option would be to incorporate sort of a summarical, in a way, that social science. I didn't like the name social science, because scientific method isn't really applied in the study of society, but social education, fine. But they could teach philosophy and say, we can't possibly be trying to sanction your beliefs in anything. We're just telling you about the history of... Because, Christianity kicks off, and at the same time, meanwhile, in ancient Greece, you got Epicurus saying, is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is impotent. Is God able to prevent evil but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is God both willing and able to prevent evil? Then whence cometh evil? And is God neither willing nor able to prevent evil? Why then do we bother to call him God? And that's the riddle of again, an ancient Greek called Epicurus. And so the thing is, it's like roughly the same time that the Christian religion was kicking off. And so I think it has definite bias Those are the two choices when it comes to education. And in secular schooling and in Christian schooling, history of philosophy is missed. So, history of philosophy is not, it's something that could be taught, and I think it's something that could be taught, and it'd be easy for a teacher to talk about, summarize views of, Plato and Epicurus and Epictetus and Hippocrates and Aristotle and Benedict Spinoza and Descartes and Marquis de Sade and John Locke and the post-Enlightenment existentialists, Soren Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Arthur Schopenhauer, Martin Heidegger, Jean-Paul Sartre, Simone de Beauvoir. They really have these brilliant people. Really had a lot to say, and I think that's what in Oh You Pretty Things Bowie is sort of talking about. That and it's just something spooky to wake up to. Is that what if your school textbooks were supplied to the schools because they were worded and phrased to essentially conform you to admiring or assuming degrees of unquestioned dogmatic veracity in relation to how certain businesses operate. We could have been taught that. There's a posteriori and a priori knowledge categories, and the former refers to that which you can confirm with your own five senses. But a priori is all conceptual, and it's not about the fact that I'm sitting on a couch now by my computer keyboard. A priori concepts are like why the Christian right still think hell and heaven exist when Copernicus proved the world was round. They apologize. The Catholic Church, get this, Galileo was charged with heresy. This is the repetitious story of the religious right, is that a move of sincere progress is made by this or that scientist or thinker, and the religious right deem them a heretic. It happened to Benjamin Franklin. Churches would get struck by lightning on their steeples made of steel. They had no idea of electromagnetism. The priest thought it was a sign to him from God that he had to coerce more verbally to identify who had unconfessed sins in the church building. So Benjamin Franklin put some metal onto a kite and shows this lightning rod, and they called it the heretical rod and called him a heretic. And another man, William Tyndale, in the 13th century, the Bible back then was controlled like like certain pharmaceuticals kept in the safe. A preacher would read from the Bible to the congregation, but if you, as a believer, wanted to read the Bible yourself, you needed to first seek, request, and get it approved by a preacher or someone in the church. So this man, William Tyndale, spent years and years translating the Bible into English so people could read it at home. And the church had him torched and set on fire, just for making the Bible available to people. So then you have Galileo, and very egocentric view that the Christians had, that Earth must be at the center or in the middle of everything else, of the whole universe. And Galileo's calculations, I find to be really impressive. What he was able to prove is brilliant, but he too was dubbed a heretic by the Catholic Church. But get this, they officially apologized, and I'm not sure if they said sorry, but they said that Galileo is no longer considered a heretic. But they said this in 1992, so it's not much use to Galileo's family. Like, let's give him a call, tell him he's not considered a heretic anymore. The Catholic Church is slow on the uptake, and right now the Pope has missionary preachers essentially pulpitting in some of the most AIDS-ridden regions of Africa, communities where AIDS is prevalent, and they're preaching against the sin of using condoms. It's Mother Teresa is someone else that everyone thought was an angel, but she had views about poverty being a gift from God, that having the willpower and endurance to transcend being poverty-stricken. So Mother Teresa had these views about poverty being a blessing. Christopher Hitchens wrote about her, and Agnes Pujashu is her real name. Hitch considered her to be essentially a malpractitioner. So what else are we going to talk about? These statistics been on my mind this week. 9 million children each year die under the age of 5, somewhere in terror and agony before reaching the age of 5. I muse upon that concept, and I tell myself not to be in any sort of state of complaint, really, about my own past. It's hard to be when you think of something like that. That's 1,000 children under the age of 5 per hour. So if this clip runs for 59 minutes, which probably won't. That's why. So, what God, and for God to stand back and watch this happen, and this trumps the free will card that Christians play. Like, an adult submits a complaint, and a preach can just say, well, God gave you free will. What are you doing with your free will? Now, I believe in willpower, but the concept of free refers to being free from some restriction of some kind. So, I don't consider the concept of the theological God of the Abrahamic faiths to be well, certainly not a comforting or appealing or respectable character. Isaiah 45 verse 7 says, I create evil and I cause woe. I, the Lord, do all these things. And that's the thing, he can't be granted to possess particular superpowers, essentially, or use them. And we'd see it regularly in ways we could never disagree with. That'll do for now.